Story 1, I live in Jacksonville now, but back in 2009, I was stationed aboard the USS Pinckney, a destroyer in the Pacific Fleet. I'd been in the Navy 7 years at that point, long enough to get used to weird hours, busted sleep, and long deployments where the horizon was your only neighbor. This happened during a South Pacific patrol. We were somewhere off the coast of Chile. Don't ask me to pinpoint it because I couldn't. The coordinates change so fast out there, and you learn not to get too attached to where you are. But I know we were far out, no land in sight, nothing but open water. It was about 0430 and I couldn't sleep. I wasn't on duty, but I got up anyway and headed up to the flight deck to clear my head. You don't usually get solitude on a ship, but at that hour, you can catch a few minutes alone. I climbed up and walked out onto the deck, expecting wind. There's always wind at sea, always. But that morning, there wasn't. I stopped short. The air was perfectly still. No breeze, not even a whisper. That's not something you get in the open ocean, not ever. I looked out over the rail and that's when I really noticed it. The water, it was like glass, completely flat. No swell, no chop, no ripple, nothing. Just a mirror stretching to the edge of the world. Now you need to understand something. The Pacific doesn't go still like that. Even on a calm day, there's motion, roll, pitch, current, something. This looked fake, like a movie set, like someone had painted it on. I leaned over the railing, trying to see if we were maybe in a bay or some protected inlet, but we weren't. We were in the middle of nowhere. A few miles back, I'd seen open sea with the usual chop. Then this. The moon was still high, full and bright. It lit up everything with that pale silver glow that makes shadows long and edges too sharp. The kind of light that makes you think you're seeing movement in the corner of your eye. And it was dead quiet. I mean, completely silent. I've never heard the ocean like that. Even on calm days, you get sloshing, creaks from the ship, the groan of metal shifting. But that night, nothing. Just the soft hum of the ship's systems under my feet and the buzz in my own ears from how quiet it was. Then I saw something. Dead ahead, maybe 30 yards out, hard to say for sure with how smooth the water was, there was a shape in the ocean. Not floating, just there. I squinted at it. It looked black against the silver water. Oval, maybe 10 feet across. Just sitting there. No wake, no movement. Just this dark mass. At first I thought it was debris. Maybe a container fell off a cargo ship. That happens. But there was something off about it. It was too symmetrical. I leaned further, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. Then, no kidding, it moved. Not with the current, not drifting. It rotated, slowly. I stepped back from the rail, heart thumping. I wasn't even sure why. Something about it just felt wrong, like I was looking at something that didn't belong. Then it rose. I'm not exaggerating. It started lifting straight out of the water, slow and deliberate. No splash, no disturbance. Just up. First a few feet, then more. It wasn't a container, it wasn't man-made. As it came up, I saw it wasn't one solid piece. It was made of something. Segments, maybe? Looked like it had ridges, like armor plates. It reminded me of a horseshoe crab, only way, way bigger and darker. And silent. I turned, about to call out to someone, anyone, but my voice caught in my throat. I didn't want to look away from it. Something told me not to. The thing stopped maybe 20 feet above the water. It just hovered there, motionless. I was shaking. My mouth had gone dry. I remember blinking hard, thinking I had to be dreaming, or seeing a shadow, or losing my damn mind. Then I saw the light. It came from underneath the thing. A dull red glow like an ember. At first it was small, the size of a softball. Then it grew, fast. The glow expanded in a perfect circle, but it didn't reflect on the water. That's what scared me most. It should have cast a glow on the surface below. Instead, the water stayed pitch black. That's when I heard it. Not sound exactly. It felt like pressure in my skull, like someone pressing their thumbs into my temples. A rising thrum, not in my ears, but inside my head. It was wrong. It made my eyes water and my knees buckle. I stumbled back, trying to get away from the railing, from the thing, but I couldn't look away. I was crying now, not from fear exactly, but from the sheer wrongness of it all, like my body couldn't handle what I was seeing. The red glow pulsed once, bright, almost blinding, and then it vanished. Just blinked out. The thing dropped. Not like it fell. It just dropped straight down into the water like it had been pulled by a rope. No splash, no ripple, gone. The second it disappeared, everything came back. The wind, the sound of the ship creaking. The ocean started moving again, just like that. Small waves lapped against the hull like they always do. I stood there, soaked in sweat, legs shaking, heart pounding. No one else saw it, not one person. I waited for someone to come up on deck to ask if I'd seen lightning or something strange, but nothing. At breakfast, I asked quietly if anyone had felt anything weird. They looked at me like I was nuts. One guy said the ocean was unusually calm last night, but that was it. I didn't report it. What would I say? Hey, sir, I saw a giant, hovering horseshoe crab glowing red and drilling pain into my skull before it blinked out of existence. Yeah, no, I didn't tell anyone for years. Even now, saying it out loud sounds ridiculous. But I saw it. I know what I saw. And the worst part, the part that still keeps me up at night, is that when it looked at me, I knew it saw me. It wasn't a creature. Not in the way we think of creatures. It didn't belong here. It felt like the ocean had stopped to let it rise, like the whole planet held its breath while it passed through. Story 2. My name's Ron Alvarez. I run a small trawler off the coast of British Columbia. Commercial fishermen been doing this for 27 years, and I'm still out here on the water more nights than I'm home. I live in Prince Rupert. Tiny place, but it's home. I've seen just about everything the Pacific can throw at you. Rogue waves, sleeping whales. One time a buddy of mine snagged a torpedo net from the 50s. But nothing ever messed with my head like what happened the night we drifted over that trench near Haida Gwaii. It was late October. Cold, still, barely any wind. We were supposed to be hauling up black cod lines about 70 miles offshore. My deckhand, Liam, kid from Alberta, maybe 24, was manning the winch while I watched sonar from the wheelhouse. We'd set the gear the night before, and were just pulling in the first line around 2:15 a.m. I remember glancing at the depth finder and thinking, that can't be right. We were sitting over a spot we don't usually fish. Liam had accidentally let the boat drift while we were sleeping, and we'd ended up over an unmarked pocket in the seafloor. It dropped hard, almost 800 feet in seconds, like the ocean just opened up beneath us. Hey, Ron, Liam called from the deck. There's something weird down here. I leaned out the door. What do you mean weird? He just pointed. The line had gone slack for a second, then it started drawing tight again. Too tight. It was pulling harder than I'd ever seen. The winch groaned, cables vibrating. Not fast, just steady, heavy. Kill it, I shouted. Shut it down. He punched the stop. The whole trawler jerked. For a moment, I thought we'd start listing, but then it settled. That's when we heard it. It was coming from below. Not mechanical, not fish, not water pressure. It was rhythmic, almost like breathing. Deep, slow, not quite even, but loud enough that we both froze. You hear that? Liam asked. His voice cracked. I nodded slowly, stepping out onto the slick deck, my boots sticking slightly to the frost. Then the line started unspooling by itself, fast. Nope, nope, cut it, I said. Now. He hesitated, just for a second, but I've seen hesitation get people killed out here. I grabbed the deck knife off the rail and sliced the tension cable near the pulley. The line snapped free with a violent whip and disappeared into the black below us, vanishing like it had been sucked down. We both stared over the edge. It was pitch, the kind of black you only get out on the open ocean at night. And then, without warning, the sonar screen in the cabin started chirping. Liam sprinted into the wheelhouse. Dude, it's moving. I didn't want to look, but I did. The sonar was showing something rising. Fast, it was massive. At least the length of a gray whale, maybe bigger, and vertical, coming up right beneath us. I've never seen something move like that in deep water. It wasn't swimming, it was just ascending, like gravity didn't apply to it. The boat started rocking, gentle at first. Then the waves came in threes, hitting hard from underneath. Not side to side like usual, underneath. That's when the smell hit us. Rot, like fish guts, old diesel, and wet moss. It just poured up from the vents. Liam gagged and backed against the wall, holding his face. I could feel it in my throat. And the breathing sound? It stopped. It stopped, replaced by something much worse. Tapping. It was faint at first, a gentle, rhythmic clicking, like fingernails on the hull. Then it grew louder, more frantic, traveling along the metal under our feet, circling the boat. Like something was crawling along the underside, testing it. We stood there frozen, both of us just listening. Then it knocked. 3 hard thuds like knuckles on a door. "Get us out of here, Ron," Liam whispered. I slammed the throttle forward. The engine choked for a split second, then caught, roaring us into a hard turn. But we didn't move. The boat just sat there, engine screaming, water churning, no motion. And then, this part, I still don't fully believe it myself. The lights cut out, full blackout. Only the stars and the red pulse of the sonar lit the cabin. Liam started praying under his breath. He was shaking so hard he dropped the flare gun from the emergency box. I went for the backup switch. No power. Dead. Then we heard the hatch unlatch. Below deck, it was slow, deliberate. Click, clack, click. Something was inside the boat. I grabbed the crowbar we used to crack open frozen crates. Liam held the flare gun, fumbling to reload it. The clicking sound, those fingernails or claws or whatever they were, started up the metal steps from the engine room. I still don't know why I did this, but I shouted, "You don't belong here!" No answer, just that sound getting closer. Liam screamed and fired the flare down the stairwell. For a split second, everything lit up red. There was something halfway up the stairs. It wasn't human. Too thin, too long. Pale, sea-washed skin, like something that had never seen sunlight. Arms wrong, bent the wrong way. Face was, God, I don't even know. Blurred, like trying to focus on something underwater. And then it shrieked, not high-pitched like an animal. It was a low, pulsing howl, like pressure escaping from a ship's hull, but alive. I swung the crowbar blindly, screaming, and slammed the hatch shut. It took everything to get it latched. I could feel it slamming against the other side. But after a few seconds, it stopped, dead quiet. And then we were moving, no throttle, no engine, just drifting fast, like something was pushing us. The boat turned sharply, then slowed. The lights flicked back on. Depth finder blinked, then returned to normal. We were no longer over the trench, just open water, clear sonar, no noise, no tapping, no smell. We hauled ass back to Prince Rupert without speaking a word. When we docked, Liam quit on the spot, packed his duffel, left his boots, and drove back to Alberta that night. I checked the hull the next morning. No scratches, no dents, no water damage. But the metal around the engine hatch, warped, bent outward, like something had tried to force its way in. I've never gone back to that trench. I don't even mark it on my charts. It's just gone, far as I'm concerned. Story 3. I've worked on the water since I was 18. My name's Seth Marlowe. I live in Crescent City, California. Tiny fishing town up near the Oregon border. Mostly salmon and crab out here, depending on the season. You work long hours, get beat to hell by wind and rain, and the ocean takes more people than it gives back. This happened 5 years ago. I've told maybe 2 people since. We were a crew of 4, working an old steel-hulled seiner called the Audrey Bell. Captain was Vic, a grizzled guy with 30 years at sea and half a lung from smoking 2 packs a day. Mark was our deckhand, mid-30s, always sunburned. Then there was Jay. Kid was only 21, new to fishing, didn't talk much. I was running gear and navigation mostly. This trip, we were contracted to fish squid off the southern coast of Kyushu, Japan. Yeah, not our usual route. The company had some side deal with a Japanese outfit, so we got flown in and borrowed an older trawler retrofitted with American tech. Nothing flashy, Diesel engines, radar, basic stuff. No GPS overlays or fancy sonar. Just charts, your gut, and a lot of staring into the black. We were 3 nights into the run, maybe 50 miles offshore, south of Yakushima. Completely dark out, the kind of pitch you only get far from land. There was a low-pressure system to the north, so we were just drifting under cloud cover, letting nets sit deep. I was up on the bridge watching the radar. Just after midnight, sea was flat, no moon. Only noise was the creak of the hull and the diesel generator humming below deck. Jay was on deck watch, supposedly checking the net rigging. Then the intercom clicked on. At first, there was just silence. Then Jay whispered, "Seth, come topside." I pressed the mic. "What's wrong?" No answer. I waited, clicked again. "Jay?" Then faint. "They're everywhere." I got up and ran outside. The air was still. No wind, no spray, just that humid, salty weight you feel out there. I scanned the water, expecting maybe a pod of dolphins or a bloom of bioluminescence. Nothing. Then I looked over the starboard side. The water was glowing. Not bright, not like algae. It was deep red, dark as arterial blood. It moved in these slow, pulsing clouds, maybe 15 feet below the surface. Not drifting with the current, more like shifting, coiling. Jay was standing by the railing, frozen. I said his name. He didn't answer. Then something broke the surface. It rose slowly, too slowly for a fish. A translucent shape, maybe 6 feet across, like a jellyfish but denser, more structured. It glowed a sickly purple underneath, and inside it, God, I still see it sometimes, were shapes. I don't know how else to describe it. Not organs, not bones, just shapes. Angular, black, floating inside that pulsing mass like shards of obsidian. And it wasn't alone. All around the boat they surfaced. Dozens, maybe more. Some small, some massive. One passed under the hull, and I swear it was longer than the damn boat. I heard Vic come out behind me and say, "What in the hell?" Then the boat rocked. Hard. Something nudged us. Once, then again. Not a wave, a shove. Mark came out from the galley, mid-bite on a sandwich. He took one look and dropped it. The sea around us churned. Not violently, but in that eerie, silent way, like being surrounded by something thinking, watching. The air smelled wrong. Not rot, not sulfur, just wrong. Too clean, like bleach and cold metal. I reached for the floodlights and flipped them on. Mistake. The creatures, or whatever they were, reacted. The red glow intensified. Some of them swam straight down. Others throbbed and started rising, faster this time. One breached the surface completely, maybe 10 feet from the bow. It was shaped like a disc with long tendrils trailing beneath it. The tendrils looked solid, like wire or cable, and they moved with purpose. And one of them slapped the hull. The steel groaned. Jay turned to me, his face pale. "They're not fish." Something grabbed him. I swear to God, something shot out from the water, one of those tendrils, and wrapped around his leg. He screamed and dropped. Vic lunged, tried to grab his arm, but it yanked him sideways, clean off the deck. There wasn't even a splash, just a red ripple, then nothing. Mark ran to the port side and started shouting, waving a flare gun. Vic screamed at him to stop, but he fired it anyway. The flare arced out and burst above the water. For one split second, we saw them all. They weren't jellyfish. They were symmetrical, constructed. Some had ridges, some had spines. All of them glowed from within, like bioreactors. The ocean wasn't water anymore. It was full of them. A swarm, and they were closing in. Vic pulled me back toward the cabin, yelling something about starting the engines. I stumbled inside and hit every damn switch on the panel. Diesel coughed to life. Something slammed the hull again. Hard. The lights flickered. Mark was still screaming outside. I looked out the bridge window just in time to see a tendril wrap around his throat and lift him clean off the deck. He clawed at it, kicking, choking. Another tendril curled around his chest. And then he was gone. No splash, just sucked downward. Vic shoved the throttle forward and we lurched ahead. The boat groaned like it was trying to tear itself apart. Below us, the red glow began to fade. Either we were outrunning them or they were diving deeper. I didn't care which. We didn't stop for 6 hours, didn't sleep, just pointed the bow northwest and ran. When we finally hit Kagoshima port, we docked and walked off like ghosts. Vic made a call to the company, told them Jay and Mark were lost to a fall overboard during a squall. There had been no storm. No one questioned it. The Coast Guard came out and inspected the trawler. Said everything looked fine. They asked me if I saw what happened. I lied. Vic quit the next day. I haven't seen him since. I heard he moved inland, somewhere in the mountains. I stayed on the water another year, but I wouldn't go near Kyushu again. Couldn't even look at squid without getting that cold feeling in my gut. People laugh when I tell them the ocean is alive. They think I mean currents and tides and ecosystems. But that night it watched us, and it took who it wanted. I haven't been back since. I don't think I ever will. Story 4. I'm Matt. I live in Crescent City, way up in Northern California near the Oregon border. I've been working on deep sea boats since I was 16. Commercial tuna mostly. I run a deckhand crew now on a 60-foot fiberglass longliner called the Miss Carmela. I've seen my share of weird stuff out on the Pacific, but what happened last August still messes with my head. I haven't gone back out since. We were about 85 miles west of Eureka, close to the edge of the continental shelf. 3 of us on board, me, Kenny, and Daryl. Kenny's this big ex-Coast Guard guy, always calm. Daryl's a younger guy, stoner type, but hard worker. We were on a 5-day run, trying to fill the holds with bluefin and maybe pick up some swordfish if we were lucky. The ocean was calm that week, like glass. No wind, no chop, almost eerie. Around 4:30 a.m. on the 3rd day, I was up early doing a gear check while the others were still racked out. Sky was overcast. No stars, just that dead gray pre-dawn light. I was standing near the stern checking the winch cables when I saw it. A buoy, maybe 50 yards off our port side. But it wasn't bobbing right. It wasn't moving with the swell. It was just fixed, like stuck in place. That alone was weird enough, since there's nothing out there. No rigs, no traps, nothing mapped. Just deep black water under us. I figured maybe it was Navy, or something left over from a research crew. I went into the cabin and nudged Kenny awake. "Hey, you see that thing out port?" He rubbed his eyes and sat up. "What thing?" "Looks like a buoy, not blinking, not drifting, just sitting there." That got his attention. He threw on a jacket and stepped outside with me. We both stared at it for a while. Daryl came out a few minutes later, yawning, holding a mug of coffee. He squinted out at the thing and said, "Looks like a mooring buoy. Maybe Navy?" "Not marked," I said. "No numbers. No light. It's just there." And that's when it moved. It rotated, not floated, rotated. It was like the thing turned itself to face us, like a slow pivot. That made Kenny step back. "What the hell?" he muttered. I grabbed the binoculars. I swear to God, the thing didn't look right up close. It wasn't a buoy. It had the general shape, sure, round, faded yellow top, but it was covered in growth. Barnacles, black algae, kelp strands clinging to it like hair. But what I remember most was the surface. It wasn't smooth like fiberglass. It looked organic, swollen, veiny. "Kenny, that's not a buoy," I said. He took the binoculars, stared a second, then said, "Back up. Pull away slow." Daryl chuckled. "You guys are acting like it's gonna bite us." "Just pull us away," Kenny snapped. I moved to the throttle, eased the Miss Carmela around, but the second we turned, the thing moved again. Not floated, moved. It turned to follow us. Like it knew. I put more throttle in, still not full speed, but steady. And the thing, whatever it was, started drifting toward us. Faster than it should have. I don't know how to explain it. Buoys can't move like that. This thing had intention. It was closing the distance. That's when we all got real quiet. Daryl said, "Are you seeing this? Or did I get slipped acid or something?" We were about 20 yards from it now, close enough that we could hear it. That's the worst part. It made noise. Not splashing, not waves, a clicking. Click, 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 click. Fast, insect-like, clicking and wet slapping sounds, like something trying to talk through a mouthful of water. Then it ducked under. I swear, it dipped beneath the surface, completely silent. Gone. Just water where it had been. I froze, my stomach flipped. Kenny yelled, "Where is it?" I spun the wheel, trying to put distance between us, but then the boat lurched. Hard, like something grabbed the hull. The entire starboard side dipped low for a second. Tools slid across the deck. The diesel engine groaned. Then the clicking came again, right up close. Daryl screamed, "It's under us!" Kenny ran for the emergency beacon, slamming the button. I looked over the side, half thinking I'd see a whale or something. But I saw it. Not the buoy. A face. Just below the waterline. Maybe 6 feet down. Pale, bloated, humanish. Huge black eyes, lidless, reflective. No nose. A long mouth stretched across where its jaw should have been. But it wasn't a mouth. It was gills. Opening, closing, flaring wide. And it was smiling. Not friendly. Not human. The face drifted up until it broke the surface. And then I realized it wasn't a face. It was part of the thing. The top section, the buoy, was its carapace. That's why it looked veiny. It was flesh. The thing let out this screech, high-pitched, mechanical, almost like a sonar ping gone wrong. And then it launched at the hull, slammed it. The whole boat tipped. I thought we were going to capsize. Water came rushing over the stern. I hit the throttle to max, didn't care if I blew the engine. The boat peeled forward, finally tearing free from whatever pressure it was holding underneath. The thing didn't follow. We didn't stop for 12 straight hours, didn't speak much either. When we got back to Crescent City, we checked the hull. 3 deep gouges like it had been raked by something. But the fiberglass wasn't just torn, it was melted in places, warped, like it had been touched by acid. We reported it to the Coast Guard. They told us it was probably debris or a rogue buoy that got caught in a current. They logged it and let it go. We didn't let it go. None of us have gone back out. Kenny moved inland to Medford, bought a used car lot. Daryl quit fishing entirely. Last I heard, he's working in a vape shop in Ukiah. Me, I sold the Miss Carmela 2 months later. Now I run a tackle store near the marina. It's enough. Sometimes tourists ask about good spots to fish offshore. I always smile, sell them a rod, and point them east, toward the lakes. I don't let anyone I care about go west. Story 5. I've lived in Norfolk, Virginia all my life. Joined the Navy out of high school. Figured I'd do my 4 years, travel a bit, learn something. That was 12 years ago. I'm still in. Boatswain's mate, currently assigned to an amphibious transport dock. What I'm about to tell you happened in 2017, somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. We were heading south from Norfolk to Panama, running exercises with a few other ships. And yeah, we crossed through the Bermuda Triangle. Everyone jokes about it, of course. The older guys tell stories, all spooky nonsense to freak out the new ones. I'd heard it all before. Ghost ships, radios going dead, planes disappearing midair. Bulletin, I never believed any of that. Not until that night. I was on the 2200 to 0200 watch, working top deck, port side. It was quiet, barely a ripple in the sea, which is already weird for the Atlantic. No wind, no swell, just dead calm and pitch black. That's what hit me first, how dark it was. Normally, even at sea, there's moonlight, starlight, something. But that night, nothing. The sky and ocean looked like the same thing. You couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Around midnight, I went topside to stretch and smoke a cigarette. You're not technically supposed to, but everyone does. I was up there by myself, just watching the water, trying to keep my mind busy. That's when I saw it. It started out as this soft green glow beneath the surface, maybe 50 yards off the port bow. I figured it was bioluminescence. Happens sometimes when the ship cuts through plankton. But this wasn't that. It was too still. The glow wasn't reacting to us, it was just sitting there under the water, holding its shape. I called down to the bridge and asked if they had sonar contacts. They said negative, nothing on screen. I asked if we had any lights in the water. Nothing. No exercises, no support vessels, just empty ocean. I kept watching it. The green light started to grow brighter. But it didn't spread. It stayed contained in this perfect oval, maybe 30 feet long, and just hovered beneath the surface. The hair on my arms stood up. Something about it felt wrong, too perfect, too symmetrical. Then it moved, not like a wave or a fish darting off. This thing slid through the water like a spotlight. No wake, no ripple, just a smooth glide, like it wasn't even touching the sea. It passed directly under the bow, lit up the hull in eerie green for a second, then disappeared off the starboard side. I called it in again, but this time the comms crackled with static. Couldn't hear a thing, dead air. I switched to the backup radio, same thing. That's when I realized how quiet everything had gotten. No engine hum, no wind, nothing. Just complete silence. I stood there frozen, trying to see anything through the dark. Then the lights on deck flickered and cut out. All of them. The ship didn't lose power. We still had internal lights. But everything topside went dark, and we're not supposed to go black like that. Not unless we're under orders. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned fast. Should have been someone from the bridge checking the lights. But there was no one there, just the empty deck. The footsteps kept going though, circling me, soft boots against steel. I spun around trying to catch whoever it was. Nothing. I shouted, "Who's there?" But my voice came out like a whisper. It felt like something was pressing on my chest. Then I noticed the glow again. Out in the water, but higher this time, floating above the surface, maybe 20 feet up. Not moving, just hanging there in midair. It wasn't a light anymore. It was a shape, vague but tall, human-like, and it was watching me. I say watching because I felt it. In my head, in my gut, like my thoughts weren't mine anymore. Like someone was flipping through my memories. I saw flashes, boot camp, my dad's funeral, my brother's wedding, things I hadn't thought about in years. It all came flooding back in an instant, and it wasn't from me. It was like that thing was showing me what it had taken. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I don't know how long I stood there. Could have been seconds. Could have been an hour. Then it blinked out. Just vanished. The lights came back on. The wind kicked up. Engines roared like someone hit unpause on the world. I stumbled below deck, shaking. The OOD asked what the hell had happened to the exterior lighting. I didn't have an answer. I didn't say anything about the thing I saw. Who would believe me? But I wasn't the only one. A guy from engineering cornered me the next morning. He asked if I saw the green light. I nodded. We didn't talk more about it. We didn't need to. A week later, we docked in Panama. I took emergency leave, said it was a family thing. I just needed land under my feet. Something real. I've never gone back through the triangle since, and I never will. Some guys think it's all a joke, just ocean superstition. Let them believe that. I know what I saw. Story 6. I live in Bodega Bay now. Quiet little spot on the Northern California coast. Nothing fancy, just a rented trailer on a bluff where I can hear the waves and pretend the past didn't happen. I used to run crew on the FV Muriel, a steel-hulled bottom trawler out of Newport. If you know that coast, you know how nasty the weather can get. But that's not what got me. We were a crew of 4, working a 3-day trip off the continental shelf about 140 miles out. It was February and things had been quiet. Too quiet, honestly. Barely any wind, water like glass, and this thick, milky fog that never lifted, even at noon. You'd think no wind would be good, but out there, it just makes you feel like you're sitting still on a dead planet. No birds, no waves, no radio chatter. Just the slap of water on steel and the occasional creak from the winches. It happened on the second night, around 3 a.m., during our last tow of the shift. I was on watch in the wheelhouse while Danny, our deckhand, stayed up to prep the fish holds. He was green, only 22, but tough. The kind of kid who didn't flinch when a hook came flying or when you had to cut bait with your teeth because gloves froze stiff. "Hey Cap, something's off with the net tension," he called up through the intercom. I leaned over the control screen. Winch sensors looked fine. No snags, no damage indicators. "She's clean," I said. "Maybe bottom soft." "Nah," he said. "It's pulling weird. Can you come look?" That's when I should have known something was off. Danny never asked for help like that. I slid into my coat and stepped onto the back deck. Now listen, I've worked storms that almost broke the wheelhouse windows. I've had near knockdowns, ice buildup, rogue waves, everything. But walking out there that night, into that fog, I swear to you, it felt like I was walking into something wrong. The net cable was pulled taut, but not vibrating like it does when dragging over rock. Just tight, still, like something had hooked on and dug in, deep. Danny stood near the trawl doors, staring down into the dark like he expected something to surface. He didn't even turn when I stepped up beside him. "See it?" he whispered. "See what?" He pointed toward the net cable where it disappeared into the sea. "There's lights down there." I leaned out and squinted, but all I saw was black water and fog. No phosphorescence, no glow. "I don't see any." Then I did, just for a second. Flickering movement under the surface, like faint spotlights sweeping in circles way down deep. Way deeper than our net. And then they stopped. "Cut the winch," I said. Danny didn't move. I said, "Cut the winch." I turned toward the control box, but the moment I reached for it, the whole deck jerked with a hard lurch, like something massive had just yanked on the net from below. Danny stumbled and hit the rail. I caught the edge of the bait table. I hit the emergency release. The winch screamed. The line unwound fast and whipped out, but the tension never dropped. The net wasn't falling back to the bottom. It was rising. I'm not kidding. It was being pulled up. Danny scrambled to his feet, eyes wide. "It's coming up! It's coming up!" I backed toward the wheelhouse hatch. "Inside! Now get inside!" We both bolted, slammed the hatch shut, and locked it. I ran up to the bridge, tried to reverse the boat. Nothing. Rudder wasn't responding. Engines hummed, but we weren't moving. I could hear the steel cable clanging outside like something was climbing it. Then, bang! A deep, metallic thud on the aft deck. Danny stared at the monitor screen showing the rear deck cam. He didn't speak, just pointed. Something had come aboard. It wasn't a fish, wasn't a whale. I don't know what the hell it was. It had arms, long and thin, like a spider crab, but bent in ways that made my stomach twist, pale as bone. It pulled itself onto the steel deck, dripping and hissing like steam off dry ice. No eyes, no mouth I could see, just folds of flesh and these twitching tendrils that hung off its chest like kelp. Danny whispered, "It's smelling. Smelling us." I killed the deck lights. Everything went black except the monitor glow. It froze. Then slowly it turned toward the camera. Not moved, turned, like it knew it was being watched. It reached out and touched the lens. Static. The screen went dead. And then, nothing. Dead silence. We sat in that wheelhouse for maybe 2 hours just listening. Nothing touched the doors. No movement. No sound. At sunrise, the fog thinned. We stepped out, slow. The deck was dry. Not wet, not bloody. Just clean, like it had never happened. But the cable was gone. Cut clean through, like a torch had sliced it. We radioed the Coast Guard, claimed mechanical failure, got towed back to port, filed our report, and everyone signed off on equipment loss due to stress failure. But Danny didn't sign it. He quit. Moved inland to Idaho, last I heard. I stayed out a few more trips, never that far out again. I've never told anyone the truth, not even my wife. She thinks I'm just worn out from years at sea. She doesn't ask why I never fish past the shelf anymore. She doesn't ask why I jump at foghorns or why I check the deck cams at night, even when we're tied up in harbor. Story 7. I've been a deckhand for 12 years now. East Coast mostly. Cold Atlantic runs from Norfolk to Newfoundland. I work deep-sea trawlers, hauling squid or herring, long shifts, diesel stink in your nostrils, wet boots day and night. You don't last out here if you spook easy. I live in Machiasport, Maine. Real quiet place. Too quiet sometimes. Folks there keep to themselves. Anyway, this happened 5 years ago. February, we were fishing Georges Bank, about 120 miles offshore. Cold as hell. Sea looked like steel. Wind sharp enough to peel your ears off. The boat was the Edith May, a 91-footer, aluminum hull, radar, sonar, full trawl rig. There were 6 of us on board. Me, the captain, Don, 2 other deckhands, Kyle and Freddie, the engineer, Tanner, and a greenhorn named Luis. We were out for 3 days and hadn't pulled much, mostly bycatch. Everyone was cranky, sleep-deprived. You know how that builds. It was late, maybe 2:30 in the morning. I was on wheel watch with Don. The others were below sleeping. It was foggy. Not just low visibility, this was like a wall. You'd shine your spotlight off the bow and it'd bounce right back into your face. Don kept saying, "Goddamn pea soup." He was pacing and muttering. Radar wasn't showing anything unusual, just a few distant echoes. Other trawlers, probably. Then we heard it. This low guttural horn, not like a foghorn or a cargo ship's blast. It sounded off, like someone built a horn to sound like a whale dying, long and wet. It came from our port side, maybe half a mile out. I looked at Don and said, "You hear that?" He nodded, dead still now. "Yeah," he said, "that ain't on Marine Band." We tried hailing on VHF, Channel 16, Channel 9, even 13 for navigational traffic. Nothing but static. The horn blew again, closer. You could feel it in your chest, like sub-bass. Then the radar picked something up, big contact dead west of us, not moving. Now I've seen cruise ships, destroyers, tankers. This was bigger. The radar return was thick, like an oil rig or a floating island. Don leaned over the screen, squinting. "No AIS, he muttered. "That's weird, right? Anything that size should be broadcasting." Lewis came up from below, rubbing his eyes. "I felt something," he said, "like the whole boat jolted." I hadn't felt it, but then again, I was wired from caffeine. The horn blasted again. This time it felt closer, right off our port bow. And here's the thing, there was no echo. Usually sound bounces off the fog and water, but this horn, it sucked sound in. After it blew, everything went dead quiet, like the ocean was holding its breath. Don throttled down. We drifted, engine humming low, spotlight barely cutting the fog. Then something broke the surface. I swear to God, it came up like a building breaching. No splash, just this wall of wet metal, maybe 150 feet off the bow. It looked like the side of a submarine, but taller, jet black. No lights, no markings. Just this sheer, glistening hull stretching up into the mist. The surface of it looked wrong, organic almost. Not smooth like a real ship, more like something that had grown. And there was a smell, like rotting seaweed, oil, and iron. It made my eyes water. Don whispered, "That's not a sub." His hand was shaking on the throttle. Suddenly, the whole thing pulsed, like it inhaled. A tremor rippled across the water. Not a wave, not wind, just movement. Then our electronics fried. Every single gauge went dark. Radar, sonar, GPS. Even the cabin lights cut out. I heard Tanner below yelling, "What the hell's going on?" Then Freddie started screaming. He was in his bunk and said something touched him. Not grabbed, touched. Like a hand pressing through the hull. Luis started praying under his breath in Spanish. He backed into the corner of the bridge, muttering, "No es real. No es real." We all watched that black wall for what felt like forever. Then just as quietly, it began to sink back beneath the surface. No splash, no wake, just gone. The water flattened like glass. Fog rolled in behind it, thicker than before. 2 minutes later, the lights flickered back. Radar came online. Nothing. Just open water. Radio was still dead. Tanner stormed into the wheelhouse, holding a wrench like it was going to help. "All the breakers tripped at once," and he said, "Never seen that happen." Nobody spoke. Don finally said, "We're going home." That was supposed to be a 6-day run. We were out there barely 3. Didn't even radio it in. Just turned and headed west at half speed. The fog followed us all the way back to shore, like it didn't want us leaving. When we docked in Provincetown, the Coast Guard met us, said we'd failed to check in 3 times. That was news to us. We'd been broadcasting. I told one of the officers about what we saw. He gave me this look, like I was nuts, and said, "You saw a derelict barge or drift ice?" "Yeah, okay. Show me the 300-foot-long iceberg that can kill radar and smell like burning copper. Lewis quit fishing the next day, said he had nightmares, kept dreaming about something pressing its face against the porthole. Freddie started drinking hard. Tanner got obsessed with sonar anomalies. As for Don, he changed, got real withdrawn. Sold to Edith May a month later. I still fish, still take contracts, but I don't go back to George Bank. No one talks about what we saw. Maybe we imagined it, but that thing wasn't built by us. Story 8. I'm Rob. I live out in Norfolk now, retired after doing 20 in the Navy. What I'm about to tell you happened in 2012, somewhere in the North Atlantic. I couldn't tell you the exact coordinates, even if I wanted to. Half of what we did was classified, and the other half I just didn't pay attention to. I was a machinist's mate, third class back then, standing mid-watch in the aft engine room of a Los Angeles-class fast-attack sub. If you've never been on a boat like that, let me paint it quick. Cramped, loud, and mechanical. Pipes above your head, grease under your boots, a constant hum of turbines, fans, pumps. You get used to it. After a while, it becomes like white noise. Comforting even. It's when things go quiet that you start to worry. It was maybe 0300, mid-patrol. We were deep. No comms, no daylight, no windows. Just steel and sonar. I was sitting on a little fold-down bench, logging readings from the main propulsion unit. Steam temps, oil pressure, bearing vibration. Normal stuff. Everything was green. The other watchstanders were further forward. Thompson was on the throttle. Adams was walking rounds. I was alone in the shaft alley, tucked near the lower-level hatch that led up toward the maneuvering room. That's when I heard her. A woman's voice, right behind me, clear as anything. She said, "It's cold down here." I froze. I mean, completely locked up. I didn't move a muscle for maybe 10 seconds. Just sat there with my pen hovering above the logbook. The hair on my arms lifted, like static was crawling over me. The first thought in my head was, someone's messing with me. But here's the thing. There were no women on submarines at the time. Not in 2012, not on our boat. And that voice wasn't muffled or distant. It was right next to my goddamn ear. I stood up fast, knocked my knee on the bench. "Hello?" I said. I turned in a full circle. No one. I looked toward the shaft tunnel, nothing but darkness and the red glow of emergency lighting. The sound of the pumps hadn't changed. Nothing felt off mechanically. Just off. I left my logs and headed forward. Thompson looked up at me, chewing on a pen cap. "You good?" he asked. "You hear anyone back there just now?" He frowned. "Back where?" "In the alley. Like, anyone talking?" He shook his head. "You need rack time, dude." I almost said something else, but I let it go. Maybe I imagined it. That's what I told myself. Mid-watch messes with your head, lack of sleep, steel box, no natural light. I went back to my bench, sat down, forced myself to write the next set of readings. Then she spoke again. "It's so dark, I can't see." This time it didn't sound behind me. It sounded like it came from above the hatch, the one that leads up to the level just beneath maneuvering. And it wasn't calm like before. Her voice shook, like she was crying or freezing or both. I stood again, heart hammering, and backed away from the hatch. "Who's up there?" I called out. No answer. Then the doggone handle on the hatch. It rattled, just once. A sharp jerk. Not enough to open it, but enough to make it clang. I ran forward, not walked, ran. Adams was coming back from rounds, flashlight in hand. "Dude, what the hell's going on back there?" he asked. "You didn't hear that?" He shook his head slowly. "Hear what?" "There's someone back there. I heard them talking, crying. They said..." I stopped. I realized how crazy I sounded. "The hatch moved, man. I swear to God it moved." Adams looked over my shoulder toward the shaft. "Nobody's back there but you." I made him go back with me. We checked the entire shaft tunnel, from the reduction gears to the end of the screw. Nothing. We even checked the bilge in case someone was playing a prank and hiding out down there. No dice. Everything was in place. He laughed it off. "You probably dozed off and had a micro dream or something. Happens all the time. I once thought I saw a dog in the pump room, but I hadn't dozed off. I remember writing the temps down when I heard the voice. I was awake. Still, nothing else happened for the rest of my watch. I sat, uneasy, eyes flicking up to that hatch every few minutes. But no voice, no sound. When my relief came on, I didn't mention it. Story 9. You'd think after 17 years on tankers, I'd have seen everything the ocean can throw at you. Typhoons, engine failures in the middle of nowhere, a guy who almost lost his hand in the heat exchanger. I've been through all that. But this thing, this one night, still makes my stomach knot when I talk about it. I live in Port Hedland now, up the coast from where this happened. Used to work as a marine engineer on product tankers. This story happened about 12 years back, south of Indonesia, somewhere between Darwin and the Timor Sea. Dead middle of nowhere. Our ship was anchored for maintenance. Routine stuff. We weren't carrying product, so things were relaxed. And when things are relaxed on a tanker, the guys get bored. So we started shark fishing. I know how that sounds. Big oil tanker, nothing to do, so we tied some rope to the aft rails, chucked in some meat, and waited. Harmless fun. Guys even made a game out of it. Who could pull up the biggest reef shark or stingray? Now, I'm a welder by trade, a fitter really, so one evening, as a bit of a joke, I made this absurdly huge hook. It was about 2 feet long, forged it from this high-strength alloy we use for valve brackets. I didn't even expect it to be used, just something to show off at dinner. But Tony, he was the third mate, saw it and said, "Let's try it. Come on, if something bites this, I want to see what it is." We tied the hook to a 30-meter length of the steel core rope, looped it through a cleat bolted to the deck. For bait, we strapped on a full lamb leg we had in the deep freeze, tossed it off the stern just as the sun was going down. It was quiet for a while, just the usual creaking of the hull and the slap of water on steel. We were about 70 nautical miles offshore, dead calm sea, moon just beginning to come up. 4 of us were back there. Me, Tony, Vikash, and this Filipino guy named Jorge. After an hour, we gave up watching it and started playing cards on the rear deck. It was around midnight when we heard the rope snap taut. Not pull, not tug, snap taut. Like something massive had grabbed the bait and took off. We all froze. The rope was slicing into the cleat mount, vibrating like a plucked cello string. Vikash went over and grabbed it with both hands, trying to feel if it was snagged. But there were no rocks out there. This was open deep sea. He said, "It's moving." It's still moving. So Tony and I helped him reel it in. Took 3 of us with gloves to bring it up, inch by inch. Jorge kept shining the deck light into the black water behind the stern, but all we saw was reflected light in sea spray. About 10 minutes in, something shifted. The rope suddenly went loose. I mean slack, like whatever had been pulling just let go. We all stumbled backward, expecting something to break the surface. Nothing came. Just empty, black water and the glint of the hook. We hoisted it up. And that's when things got real quiet. The hook was still attached. Meat was gone. But the hook, this inch-thick solid alloy bar I'd forged myself, was dead straight, bent open, completely uncoiled like a paperclip. No scratches, no signs of it catching on coral or rock, nothing. Just straightened. The kind of force you'd need for that, it's not even something we could do with hydraulic gear on board. Nobody spoke for a full minute. I looked at Tony. His face had gone pale. Vikash looked sick. Jorge whispered, "No fish do that. No fish." We stood there a while listening to the water lapping the hull, rope swinging in the wind. Finally, Tony said, "Cut it. Cut the line." I don't know why, but we all felt it. Something wasn't right. Jorge pulled out his belt knife and sliced the rope, letting it fall into the water with a soft plop. We just watched it drift away into the black. None of us said much after that. We went back inside, didn't mention it to the rest of the crew. Honestly, I think we were all trying to convince ourselves it was just something big, a grouper, maybe a giant squid. But we knew better. There's big, and then there's something that can twist steel like that without even surfacing. The next day I checked the hook again, laid it out on a workbench in the engine room. It wasn't just bent, it was warped along the grain, like the metal had been pulled too far past its stress limit. And this was alloy rated to handle tons of pressure. I'd welded those same brackets to bulkheads holding diesel pumps in place. I threw it overboard before we docked in Darwin. Didn't want to explain it to anyone. Didn't want it around. We never fished off the back again after that. Not on that trip, not ever. And if you're wondering if we reported it, no. Who would believe it? Hey, Captain, something bent a forged alloy hook clean open. That's the kind of thing that ends up in a joke memo from the office, or worse, gets you pulled off contract for drug testing. I still don't know what was under us that night. All I know is we weren't alone out there. Story 10. I live alone in Plymouth now near the docks. Retired, mostly keep to myself. Not much rattles me after 20 years in the Royal Navy. But there's one night I won't talk about unless I've had a few. I guess I'm due. It was late August 1992. We were about 2 days southwest of Bermuda, somewhere in the Atlantic, riding the outer edge of Hurricane Andrew. The carrier I was on, HMS Ark Royal, was supposed to skirt the worst of it, but the bastard shifted and we ended up right in the mouth of hell. The storm was alive. Now I've seen bad seas. I've seen 30-foot swells crash over the bow like they were nothing. But this was something else. The waves weren't just big, they were impossibly massive. Wall after wall of water that made the whole ship feel like a toy in a bathtub. They curled so high they blocked out the sky. When one hit us broadside, the deck tilted so far I thought we'd roll. But that wasn't the scary part. I wasn't on duty that night. I couldn't sleep. Nobody could. So I slipped up to the bridge, stayed out of the way, pretending I was there to help. The officers were too distracted to care. I stood at the rear, watching the radar and trying not to stare too long at the chaos outside. Visibility was near zero. Sheets of rain, howling wind. Every few minutes, lightning flashed, and for just a second, you could see the monstrous waves thrashing around us like they had a mind of their own. Then someone said, "What the hell is that?" It was Sub-Lieutenant Marks, over by the starboard window. I turned just in time to catch the next lightning flash. There was something in the water. Not a boat, not wreckage. Something standing on the wave. I know how that sounds, I know. I only saw it for half a second, but I swear on my life, it was a figure, humanoid, maybe 10 feet tall, just standing there, balanced perfectly on top of the swell like it was solid ground. Its arms hung long and straight, longer than they should have been. No movement, no face I could make out. Just an outline against the flash. Then darkness again. We all froze. Nobody said a word for a few seconds. You could hear the rain pounding the glass, the wind like it wanted to break in. "Did you see that?" Mark said again, quieter this time. One of the watch officers snapped, "Focus on your panel." But I could tell, he'd seen it too. A few minutes later, another lightning strike. It was closer, same thing. That tall figure, still standing on the water, still unmoving, but now it was maybe 20 yards off the starboard bow, closer than any sane thing should have been. It didn't fight the waves. It didn't sway or shift its footing. It just stayed there, like the storm wasn't touching it at all. One of the junior ratings swore loudly and backed away from the window. Nobody else said anything. You could feel the tension, thick and electric, like the storm had suddenly become a background problem. "Could be a mast," someone muttered. "Something bobbing." It wasn't. Next flash, it was right outside. I mean, right there. No more than 5 feet from the bridge wing, up on the crest of a wave, eye level with us. This time we all saw it. No way to pretend we didn't. I could make out more detail now. Its skin, or whatever covered it, was pale, grayish, almost translucent. Its face had no features, no eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, wet shape. Its arms hung lower than its knees, fingers like black kelp trailing down. And it was staring, not moving, not threatening, just staring. I couldn't breathe. The bridge went dead silent. Even the storm seemed to dull for a second. Then the ship dropped, like an elevator falling 3 floors. A huge wave hit us dead on, and the whole hull groaned like it was going to tear in half. We staggered. Alarms started flashing, the lights flickered, and when they came back up, the thing was gone. Nobody said anything for a long time. The commanding officer came up, asked why the hell the bridge crew looked like they'd seen a ghost. We didn't answer. The storm passed by morning. We all pretended nothing happened. Officially, nothing did. No entry in the log, no radar anomaly, nothing on the cameras we checked, just static during the worst of the lightning, like it didn't want to be recorded. But I'm telling you now, there are things out there, things that don't belong, that don't follow the rules, that exist in places where men were never meant to go.